I kind of want to just focus on something that Phil Spencer said regarding this game. And I just want to see if it's me picking up something or it's me just looking too far into it. So, in an interview, gentlemen, with GameFile, Phil Spencer says this. I will say, when I look at a game like Helldivers, and it's a great game, kudos to the team shipping it on PC and PlayStation. I'm not exactly sure who it helps in the industry by not bringing it to Xbox. Now, he said this in February, on February 16th, 2024. Okay, so here's my thought and my theory, Fuzzy Belvedere. Phil Spencer is in a position that when he has an interview, something that he says can move stock numbers, right? He has that kind of power. He doesn't specifically go out of his way to do it, but he usually doesn't talk about things that may or may not be relevant to an Xbox platform decision. He says this. I'm not exactly sure who it helps in the industry by not being on Xbox. Now, a lot of people said he was being, kind of, like I saw some write up, well, he was being spiteful when he said that. I don't think so at all. I think that he's trying to get a game that he knows that his fan base will enjoy. Now, obviously, this was money hatted by Sony, and it's something that they did to great success with this game. Not everything that they did in 2024 panned out as well as this, and this continues to be a conversation. It continues to make money for Sony. I think it would make more money if it was on Xbox. Again, I would gladly double dip. It's not a problem. I'm not even looking for a Game Pass deal. I saw that conversation over the weekend. Oh, you Xbox just wanted in Game Pass. No, it's okay. I'll buy the deluxe edition all over again. It's not a problem. You can have my 40. I think was it $60? I think it was the standard was 40. I think there was a $60 version. I bought the $60 version. I don't care. I like deluxe editions. Is there something here, Fuzzy Belvedere, on what he had to say that there might be more than preliminary? Maybe they're working stuff out in the contract? Oh, Fuzzy, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. No, it's quite possible because he said before, whenever he says something, there's something there. There's always something there in what he says, or on that shelf behind him, kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is something being discussed behind the scenes back then, just to kind of give people a heads up and then see how, the gaming community responds. Sure, you're going to have your naysayers or those that are like, oh, he's just being salty or whatever. Okay, well, we know that it wasn't like an overnight thing for Hi-Fi Rush. We know it wasn't an overnight thing for Sea of Thieves or any of the other games that they've put over there. So it's quite possible that there could have been something in the works behind the scenes. I mean, we're finally getting Kena, Bridge of Spirits over here.
Yes. Yep.
I know originally people thought it was a 1-year deal, and then it was rumored to be a 2-year deal. 3 years later, we're getting the game. And it's an awesome game.
And I will buy it again. I bought it on PlayStation, and I will rebuy it. That game was gorgeous.
Yeah. And like with these non-first party games, like when it's another studio, even though, Sony is contributing or funding that game or that creation to some extent, they still can benefit from it. Like whatever the revenue split is, it may depend, but I would have to assume if Sony funded that project fully, they're probably like 60-40 or something like that. Take the overall 30% off the top for Microsoft. I'm pretty sure they would rather take that than zero if it winds up being that they sell another 1 million copies or so. So it all depends. I would not be surprised. I mean, we all see how we got MLB The Show into Game Pass. Yes, I know that was the MLB licensing and stuff that publishes that and whatnot, but you have to admit that's kind of like the I guess you could say the sharp business sense that he has that people don't necessarily give him credit for at times. Same deal with getting Death Stranding in Microsoft's Xbox PC store. not too long ago. So there. Oh, and also even what do you call them? Forspoken was on Xbox's PC store. So
Yep.
it, I can see it being something that he's probably in works with, and that, worst case scenario, maybe it only comes to the Xbox PC store. I still think that's a win as far as getting more players, even though that store is maybe not the preferred place for PC players in general. Steam is still the head and shoulders above all the others, but it's still an option to give more people access to a game that, maybe they wouldn't have bought any other time, and having access to it adds to that community. And then maybe when there's a Helldivers 3, they all realize it's better just to put it everywhere and collect all the money from everybody, as opposed to, fracturing things and stuff. Especially considering now that this whole $70 game standard, and I know a lot of people, it's like a sore spot. Oh, they're talking about $70 games again. But it's like games haven't sold quite as well since they've had that price
Oh no, it's a
increase.
fact, brother. It's a fact. Yes. Yeah.
And it's something that, is $70 going to go away? No. I mean, it's a lot of these smaller devs, or even some of the games that the devs know are smaller experiences. I mean, even like with Hellblade 2, it's not going to be a $70 game. That should help it sell better. That should also help when it comes to the fact that it's digital only. And I know there are some that want the physical version of it. I hate to tell you, physical versions are going to probably go the way of the was it limited run only kind of thing in the next couple of years. But outside of that, having a game that once you start spending all this money producing these games, and then you put that $70 price tag, unless you're a Call of Duty or a Madden or a 2K, your best hope is maybe reach somewhere between 10 million or so copies. We don't see the games reaching the 20 million copies quite like they used to, except for those 2Ks or Call of Duties and things like that. The exception would be those that still have the cross gen that is still 60, but those are becoming fewer and far between now. But I think he's working on something or hinting to something that was either in the works or whatnot. And I know people would be like, "Oh, he lied about VR." No, he actually didn't lie about VR.
Yeah.
He was working something with Meta or Facebook at the time, and we see what that panned out. Now, it's not quite what he may have hoped, or what all of us may have hoped as far as that was concerned, but Xbox is on Meta, and that was part of what he may have talked about too soon, type of thing. So he's getting better at not talking about things as early. But every time he says something, there's either something in the works, or it's a plan that's almost in effect at this point in time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get an announcement within a year's time.
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, we don't know for sure, but I don't think that this game was planned for Xbox. I think the success of this game has clearly shown Sony that there is a revenue pool that they could definitely tap into, and Xbox would be a good place because it is a multiplayer console. Gams, what are your thoughts on Phil Spencer's statement during this interview? Because again, he specifically goes on to mention Helldivers 2. Obviously he gives the team a lot of credit for releasing it on Xbox, on PlayStation, and of course on PC.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously throwing that little dig in there that it doesn't really do the industry any good where it's not on Xbox. I mean, listen, we know what Sony has done is what they've done for years. Console exclusives make people buy PlayStations. That's a fact. But this is a much different generation, and these corporations want to make money. Hiroki Totoki, who is the interim head dude over at PlayStation right now until they find a permanent replacement, wants to course correct some of the stuff that Jim Ryan got wrong. I think releasing those on Xbox makes sense.
Yeah, so these types of games, just like Final Fantasies, like, okay, we can't really compare, look, publishing, publishing exclusives for your platform is always going to have a space, right? It's always going to be a thing. Apple has their exclusive apps and all that stuff. It's just the way it's going to be. In this specific case, and I'm going to bring up Final Fantasy, for people like, for third-party studio deals and all that stuff, it's a different story, okay? In the terms of Final Fantasy, I could say it doesn't do anything for Square. It does something for PlayStation, but Square not growing and being healthy and having visibility everywhere actually stunts the industry entirely. Like if more publishers go, let's say Capcom and Sega did the same thing, right? It wouldn't grow the industry as a whole. But see what's happening now, where Capcom and all these other big companies are starting to put their big guns everywhere. It's starting to get more visibility from everyone that might be turned off from buying a whole freaking system,
Yep.
especially if they're not in that ecosystem. So you lose a player, right? You don't gain a player. Big games like this matter going everywhere because it gets more gamers with different tastes into games everywhere, and that grows the entire industry as a whole. I think that's what he's pointing at. Like if Helldivers is such a big thing and people are like, oh my god, yo, Billy, Billy, get this game. And he's like, well, I'm a phone gamer or a Xbox gamer. Is it on my store? And they're like, no. It's like, okay, well, you lose a player, right? You lose a gamer. You lose growth there. So, yeah, it's just, put these big games everywhere for more eyes and more opportunity to grow and keep money flow in the gaming business as a whole, as an entirety, and keep, certain things exclusive that come from your space that you think won't be uh that you think will grow your console. That's fine, but as a whole, we should probably, for games like Helldivers and for second party studios and all that third party studios, put your games everywhere so everybody gets to play them and money flows into the industry. If that makes sense, or I'm just blabbing around in the
No,
circle.
I think
You
it
let
makes
me. You
no,
target me
I
if
think it
you.
makes perfect sense, and I think that's where the
Yeah.
industry is going. Again, I still think, and I'm going to die in this hill, folks, because I'm an old dog. There are certain exclusives that need to
Mhm.
remain on its own platform. God of
Mhm.
War, Horizon, Uncharted. Those games
Mhm.
are Sony PlayStation first party
Well,
games,
yeah.
and people buy
To
those
that
consoles for those games.
to that point, right? A staggered release makes a lot of sense, and they're going to PC and all sorts of things. But that's the point: is that they're going to go to PC and grow the market there and grow the players there, and
Right.
that's the whole entire point of this. Like, it doesn't matter where we start. Like, if it just matters that more people get to play the thing
Oh,
when the thing comes out, and that's what I'm saying. And that's where everybody's going, including Square and Capcom and Xbox and
yep.
even PlayStation right now at this very moment are doing the exact same thing. So good for us. I mean, good for gaming, good for visibility of everything. So yeah,
No, I mean, look,
we
for
get
like
more
for
games.
a gamer like me has everything. Now,
Hmm.
if I had a choice of the three platforms, I'd buy it for Xbox. But if it's not
Yeah.
available on Xbox, I buy it on PlayStation because, well, I have a PlayStation 5 and I'm proud to support it.
Yes,
Same
sir.
thing with Switch.
Hmm.
K.O. Walker, he actually said this in the chat. Xbox VR headset news in the last 20 minutes. I did not see that because obviously I'm going. Thank you so much. I'm gonna definitely check that out. If there is some VR talk for Xbox, we will definitely be covering it tomorrow on the Xbox Factor podcast at noon. But before we get everyone out of here, and of course, to catch up on the last super chat that popped in here, I want to welcome in nearly 900 live viewers. Now, of course, that is the number of breakdown is 342 people watching on X on
Hmm.
Twitter. That's crazy, and
That's
almost
cool.
526 people watching on YouTube. Of course, if you are watching and enjoying the conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's one click, and if you're feeling super generous, you can click again for the bell icon to find out when I go live. And I do this Monday through Friday, 5 different panels, 5 different shows, all great content. Now, Game Pass Dad, let's get you in here for your final thoughts. Phil Spencer had something very pointed to say. And again, I appreciate what he said, how he said it. A lot of people didn't. They thought it was like he was taking a dig at Sony for making this as an exclusive to their platform as well as on PC. I just think that he's making a lot of sense. I think that it does it does correlate with what Nick had to say. And I don't think Phil Spencer says things if there isn't some substance to it. Because, like I said in the opening, his opinion does move stock numbers. I don't think he mentions Helldivers 2 if there wasn't a chance for that they could work out a deal with Sony Interactive Entertainment to put this on Xbox. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely, like, I do feel like he's very vocal when he thinks about bringing games to gamers, and he's been a leader with like making sure things like crossplay happen back in like the early Fortnite days, excuse me, because PlayStation was famously like the last holdout on crossplay back in the day, and like now when we're talking about games that are perfect for a third party audience, like I think he kind of realizes that this is a game that pays homage to games that Xbox players love, and he sees Xbox as a perfect market for it, and that it's a title that if he was in charge, that would certainly be a game that they would be considering putting on other platforms eventually as well. I don't know if it necessarily speaks directly to any sort of backroom conversations. Like it's very possible that it was in talks. But I mean, at the very least, I think it does speak to the fact that he would like to see it on Xbox, and that he might not see who it would help to keep it off there permanently, or that he has an idea that like eventually they will want to bring it to more platforms. So it could be a number of things there. But speaking to that also, I do feel like in a way with off the back of the success of like launching simultaneously on PlayStation and PC, like Microsoft's strategy moving forward to where they're making the Xbox less of just a console and more of a version of PC. Like, I mean, that could be a reason why they're doing it, is an eventual workaround to like bring as many chances for Xbox gamers to enjoy games that might not necessarily make it directly to console this day and age. Like, it would be out of the question in the future if an Xbox is a PC and vice versa. But I think it's more speaking to the fact that he would hope that they can work something out. And I don't doubt that there couldn't have been any conversations about it, but it definitely would seem that obviously we didn't get a simultaneous release on Xbox, and I wouldn't necessarily expect one, just for the way that exclusives work this day and age. Like, it seems like the real exclusive is just more or less a timed exclusive in a lot of cases. So I feel it's more like being passionate about it and trying to make an argument that yes, this is a game that would do great on Xbox, and that he would hope that Sony does follow suit and start bringing more games like that to more gamers, and essentially just that it is a possibility, because we all know that it's been done before, and I wouldn't doubt that we'd possibly see it on Xbox one day, but I've also been enjoying it quite a lot on PC. So I just hope, honestly, as many people get a chance to play it, because it's been a great example of what can be possible at that price point, and just in gaming is in general. It's like one of the greatest like co-op shooter options that you have right now. And like, definitely it is the bright spot that of like Sony's lineup this year, like we were talking to earlier. Like, they definitely have had a pretty difficult first party year, but Helldivers has probably bought them some time with a lot of goodwill. And I do feel like it's a game that if they are starting to consider bringing games to more platforms, that this is definitely one that they should really consider, because I feel like it's going to sell great on whatever platform it's on. Because I don't know if I would necessarily personally buy it again, because I primarily game on my PC, but there are situations that down the line, if I ever just for whatever reason like only have my Xbox or want to sit on the couch and play it, like I could see myself buying it again for whatever price point it is if I ever had to, because it's also a game that I play on controller. I don't play it mouse and keyboard. So it's very versatile, and it's at a point where it doesn't break the bank, where even as someone who doesn't plan on buying it a second time, I would certainly consider it. So at the very least, I think Phil's trying to open up the conversation to like point it in the right direction to potentially come to Xbox, because it's definitely a game that Xbox gamers would enjoy.
Yeah.